Hello, Dave, An Ghaeilge, to Brunor us on slight delay. There are technical issues, but Avlin fui waisha Dave Galer, August Tamajara, Bemaj Kancha not fui Kursi Gilga. We're going to be talking tonight about a brief chat about Irish language in the country and how we're going to promote it and what we're not doing to promote. There was an initiative recently, Dublin City Council, I believe, are trying to get people in Dublin speaking the language more. There's an initiative in certain establishments, pubs, restaurants, ice cream shops. I saw that. It's something that they're doing. At least they're trying something. Karen, you've done very well over the last couple of years, speaking a little bit of it. You know, you didn't have much beforehand, and all credit to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, my and Van. I mean, this initiative, there's a lot of things about it. I mean, Ireland got an independence about 100 years ago, and what has it done to improve the usage of the language? I mean, the trajectory has continued to go down. Leo Varadkar said recently he's proud that Ireland is the #1 English-speaking country in Europe. I mean, if you're going to talk like that, you might as well just join the UK. I mean, never mind political independence. We could have cultural independence through our language. I mean. What do you think about the state of the language? Obviously, I mean, our position is that we want to promote the language 100%. And it is the first official language of the country. I mean, what do you think about that, Karen, promoting the language? Could we do more?
Well, definitely, because I mean, my own experience over the last 2 years has been a steep learning curve. I do enjoy it, but I can see, like I started going with yourself to the Gaeltacht up in Donegal, and you can see the difference, regarding the money. If the money going into a certain Gaeltacht, the locals will speak it. But where we were going, the locals weren't speaking it, so you can see the difference there. And they're getting smaller and smaller. But having said that, I'm seeing a resurgence in the interest in Irish, and these pop-up Gaeltachts are coming up everywhere, whether it's classes online or, as you say, before up to maybe 2019, people were meeting in cafes and pubs maybe once or twice a week and speaking among themselves, having a drink or a coffee. And like what the Dublin County Council is planning on doing, making that more official, maybe more structured. And people encourage people to have speak Irish in a social setting as well as learning it. That's a great idea.
They're
and then
putting
maybe
some
more.
funding into it.
Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're putting funding into it, I believe. I think there's 50,000 euros going into it, which is something. I mean, what I'd like to see them doing is, on the flagship program, take the Late Late Show. Why don't they have subtitles in there? And why don't they, when they have the commercial ads in the middle of the program, why don't they put a few basic phrases and get the country back to? I mean, we're doing a lot more to promote to push it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like maybe have the subtitle in Irish. That'd be great. And people are more likely to pick it up because children are very good with that as well. They pick up Irish very quickly, and then the parents could pick it up through the children. Because a lot of parents probably feel apprehensive about it, but that'd be a good idea. But having more classes and obviously through the pop-up Gaeltachts, through social settings would be great. 50,000 is quite small, but it's a start. You need a lot more than that. I don't know what they're planning on doing with 50,000. Is it going to be through?
Well, I saw a few places like ice cream places. I mean, there are a few bars that do have that. I think there's one called the Ginger Man, and there's a couple of others in Dublin that do that. But Dublin always was a very Anglophile city, really. And it was one of the first to lose Irish. So I mean, anything's a help. I mean, I know it's not a lot of money, but it's a help. I suppose it's something. But it's good that they're doing it. And I think another point, we need to move away from the fact that Irish, somebody made a comment there that it's a tool of elitism, republicanism. I mean, we need to move away from that. I mean, taking the North there, a lot of people from Nadini Protestant, Nadini Intaha, the Unionist Protestant community in East Belfast, are big into learning it at the minute, which is great to see. I always hate to see it being flagged and looked on as a Republican thing. You know, it can be a cultural independence thing, but not something that's hijacked by one side or the other.
Yeah. I do. At the beginning, I felt that was very elitist because the system here in the Republic is like, you know, you go to these Gael schools and, you know, the schools have an elite kind of reputation, but it is changing. But I think if you had it more, you know, spread around a social setting, it'd take that elitism away. Because people sitting in a pub, in a restaurant, or a cafe bar, you would lose that elitism. Relation to radio, I don't know if any of that money is going to go into radio. I know we have Tina G, but that's it's not kind of really reaching the average person. Certain people watch Tina G, maybe listen to An Ghaeilge, but I think you need to kind of maybe to make it popular amongst the young people. You might have maybe you know, a young person's radio that bring in the young people speaking in Irish, because maybe an older group might listen to Tina G or An Ghaeilge. But if you want to bring in younger people, you might want to change that tactic, maybe music or art or something, with true Irish, obviously.
Well, I mean, you're making a good point about it has a little bit of a reputation, almost ironically now, as being an elitist thing, kind of. And some of those schools have a very good record, though. And that's why there's almost like a sort of inverted racism. Like some of the maybe elite people go there because you tend to not get foreigners. You tend to not get, you know, you get a very middle class ones going to the schools. But I mean, it's going full circle. I mean, it's now that the sort of almost the elite are speaking the language as opposed to, one of a better word, the working class. But I think that, you know, in our organization, but I think there should be an obligation on some of us to try a wee bit more to try and promote the language. You know, I mean, everybody's got a couple of fuckle. I mean, you speak a wee bit, and I make an effort, and a few others do. But I think some of the rest of the, you know, members or otherwise, could try and weave a wee bit more of the language into our daily speak. I mean, everybody knows a slunch or a Giadiv or a slan lad or even a Guramayaga, you know. No, I think I would like to say I think there should be an obligation on it, and I of course do lessons, and I'll put a few links up of some of our early lessons on there. Don't charge too much, by the way. But look, it's not meant to be a big, massive chat tonight, Karen. It's just a little bit of a chat about promoting the language. I mean, as they say, Cheergan Changa, Cheergan Anam. Country without a language is a country without a soul, and that is true. If Ireland does not reclaim its language, we're just going to be another province of Britain. What's the difference, really? I mean, what do you see is culturally difference between us and Britain? Without language, I'm not entirely sure what the massive difference is.
There isn't really. I mean, I know people would ask us, why do we not know our Irish and how do we lose it? And we kind of didn't really fight enough, really, over the last number of years to kind of hold on to it. And we have to learn it as an obligation more than a love of it. And I have to say, I was guilty of that myself until we met up and you started teaching me. But otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered. But
do you feel a liking for the language? Do you feel yourself that you've got a little bit of a liking now for it?
Yes, because I listen to Tina G every day when I'm like,
That's good.
You know, I mean, I kind of in my mind, and I sometimes think about certain things in Irish, and I'm looking at programs in Irish as well, every week. So it's like I would record it and listen to Irish. So it's kind of in my daily life, even if I don't understand all of it.
Yeah.
And I listen to Irish music as well.
Very good.
And that's every day,
But that shows you then that it takes a little bit of effort, and you've been making the effort, and it's not just something that people hate. It always puzzles me who some of the most nationalistic people in Ireland are some of the ones that have a real hatred for the language. I never really got that myself. I mean, I think I know it was taught. Everybody says it was taught whatever way down south and compared to the north and all that, where it was probably taught better in the north. Fair enough. and there's more of a liking of it up there, as you'd probably agree. But I think there's a wee bit of laziness in that as well. A lot of people are using that as an excuse, and they just don't want to be bothered with speaking it. I mean, if you take the example of Israel, where the Hebrew language was basically not used, it was more or less obsolete, and they just banned every other language when Israel started, and now Hebrew is the spoken language. So that shows that Irish can be brought back up to an acceptable level. We're not saying that you have to avoid English. Obviously, you have to speak in English, but I think we could be doing a lot more to bring the language back. Government need to be putting. Another point I will just make as well: when you're down south, there are more people that speak it than you would actually think. It's just they don't have an outlet for speaking it.
Yes, I think that's what I know the Dublin County Council are doing it, but I'd like to see it more in other counties and towns. And I'd like to see it here, meet up with people locally, instead of going to Dublin. I mean, we speak it among ourselves, and we might send messages in Irish to each other. And since you started teaching me, I know you have different words for Irish, and I have different words in Irish for certain things, but it never stopped us from communicating with each other. Yeah. I learned, you know what I mean? It wasn't a block. Once I got used to different phrases and that,
we don't want to alienate people as well. I mean, I know people have their reasons for not speaking it, but it is actually more enjoyable, as you'd probably agree, to be able to communicate different medium. And what better than the medium of our own national ethnic language, Well, look, and it isn't even about nationalism either, because as I mentioned, the Unionists in the North are speaking it, because that's part of their culture. That's part of culture too. It's part of the inherent culture of the island. And you link that into the Celtic thing with Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, other parts of Britain, Great Britain. It is Celtic. The islands were Celtic before there was invasion from the Anglo-Normans. So when you look at the two islands, they were Celtic islands. And I think that's the thing, the glue that keeps the two two islands linked. It keeps it together in that regard, And then we could have we could look at trade links and everything else. But we can't ignore the fact that there's Celtic links between the two islands. Even in France, Breton.
The Breton, yeah. But I do find that since I started learning Irish, and I think it was more, I didn't realize when I was at school, that if you don't learn or maybe speak on a daily basis, you become apathetic, and maybe apathetic towards your own country. Because I'm seeing less of a fight towards things, that if you don't have that basic language of your own, your own language, you're not going to really care about everything else. I'm seeing a link there sometimes, not everything. Some people may be nationalists, as you say, and not really putting effort into Irish, and maybe that's just because the way they were educated, I don't know, from school and that. But I'm finding that since I started learning more the Irish and listening to it every day, that you're more likely to care about where you came from and what's going on now and what happened in the past. And it's all linked. Yeah. And people I didn't really see it until, we started learning Irish, really. It became more than a language, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Dublin, and when are they starting it, Is it something that's planned in the future?
I don't know. I think I'll put the link, and there's a Twitter link. I'll put it into the comments section. Okay. It's ongoing now. I've seen it start. It was on the news the other day. There's a Twitter thing.
Right.
I'll also stick a couple of our wee lessons in just to show people the flavour of what we do. It's very basic stuff. But I mean, Karen Guramila my agat is chap to chap. I mean, it's just a wee quick New Year broadcast to promote the art, promote the language.
I need to get back into the practice as well.
Yeah. Well, Tata Rodbug asked Clactu, but no, I have every credit to you, Karen, for doing it, making the efforts that you have done with it. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy at the start, and I mean, but it shows it shows that you can do it. And Maya and Van, fair play to you, and everybody else out there in the party or not should be doing the same thing. I'd like to see a little bit more from us efforts in that area. We are the Irish Freedom Party, not the, English speaking. So come on, guys, let's get it. Michaela. All right. So,
Okay.
Karen, I'll see you soon. August.
All right.
All
Sloan.
right,
Sloan. Good night.
Slán.